right, everybody, here we are back again. The QR code. I'm Razor,
Hey, I'm Q.
and we have a special guest with us this week, Mr. Adam Rosen, who's going to join us. And he's a big time Viking fan, so we're going to throw it to Adam. We're going to start off and let him tell us a little about himself and his journey. Adam?
Okay, thank you, first of all, for having me. This is really a thrill, honest to gosh, and would be remiss if I didn't mention that Ma Q and I go back. We've met in 1978 as freshmen in high school and have remained in touch steadily over the years. And one of the glues that have kept us close have been our rabid fandom for the Minnesota Vikings, no question about it. We bleed purple bleed purple throughout the winter months, that's for sure. Um, so I grew up like Maki did in Charleston, and in the mid 70s, when I was about 10 years old, um, started following football in earnest. And because we had no local team, we could kind of freelance without repercussion from friends. And my first favorite player was Fran Tarkenton. And this is my Tarkenton jersey. And I should mention that this was gifted to me by my wife the first year we were married, 96, over the Hanukkah holiday. And that was when I knew that I had for sure married the right woman, even though it didn't need reinforcement. That was always great. Um, so I followed the Vikings, all these years very closely. As a family, we try to go to at least one game as a family on the road somewhere during the year. We've done that for many years, and we always, it's just great. And to have all of our three kids also being incredibly passionate fans just makes it just unbelievable, unbelievable.
Your three kids all Vikings fans?
They are all Vikings fans,
Raised them
and
right.
maybe I can hold up a picture later or something. We went this year to the opener in New York when we thrashed the Giants,
We
and
were there.
and just to show you, that you raise your kids the right way. So this summer for our 28th anniversary, our gift was 50-yard line tickets to the Jacksonville game last month.
Nice.
So that
Very nice.
when you're raising your kids right,
Exactly.
and that's the present,
Exactly.
right? So we went to that game. We invited Maku for the record, but he didn't fly down that morning to Jacksonville.
He did tell me he was invited to that game. He
was.
The best
So
kosher tailgate ever, and I kept thinking about it, and I kept saying, "No, I cannot."
It was great. It was great. It was great.
My wife and I were at the Giants game because her
Oh, really?
son's a huge Giants fan. At halftime we went to a suite that
Sorry to
his
hear
company has. Yeah, I know it's his fault.
Yeah,
And
of course.
we watched the second half in the suite. It was right after we sat down in the suite just as Van Ginkel intercepted Daniel Jones, who's turns out
You,
Daniel Jones, liked it so much he
yeah,
decided, you know,
He
I'll
liked
fly
throwing the
to
Vikings.
Minnesota.
He liked throwing the Vikings so much that he decided to join us.
right, right. He helped us all he could that game.
Exactly.
So this is a good
kind,
segue.
kind of like when we faced Kirk as a Redskin. He did the same thing. Threw the Vikings so much, he said, "You know what? Let's try it."
Right. So I wanted to mention one very special Vikings member who had some pretty good memories at different games, seeing incredible games. But in 2015, our son, who's our middle child, he had his bar mitzvah that summer. And, growing up in the 70s, we'd watch games at the old Met Stadium, and you'd see the famous, brutal, sub-zero wind chills, and Bud Grant not letting the players have the heaters on the sidelines. Real classic, real
Oh
man
yeah.
football. And I always thought, wow, I'd love to go see a game outdoors, the Vikings home games. And of course, the Metrodome came along in '82, and that precluded any home games there until the two seasons that they built US Bank when we were outside at TCF Gopher Stadium. So the second of those two seasons was 2015, 2016. And I said, you know what? This is it. This is the last chance anyone in my generation, and maybe even my kids, are going to be able to see a Vikings home game outdoors. So I picked out a date, and this was a surprise, belated bar mitzvah present for our son, in addition to all the other ones he got in the summer. And so I got tickets for the Seattle game. It was December 6th, 2015. And but I wanted to make it as special as I could for our son. I didn't want to just go to the game. So I don't know if either of you know Chip Scoggins.
Yeah, yeah.
Chip, right? So
Chipper.
Chip writes for the Star
Mm-hmm.
Tribune locally. He's been writing for
Good.
like decades covering the Vikings. So I've read his stuff for many, many years. He's one of my favorite local columnists there. And I said, and talk about throwing like a dart against the board and hoping it'd stick. Uh, I wrote him to his email at the paper and I said, I'm coming in just for the day from Florida. It's going to be like a 22-hour round trip day and bringing my son, and it'll be his first home Vikings game. And I wanted to find out if there's any suggestions you have as to something we could do to make it special, extra special for him. And I said, I know this is a total shot in the dark. Here's my cell phone number. I would really appreciate if you could get back to me. Totally not expecting it. Literally 5 minutes later, after I sent the email, he called me up from his car and
Nice.
he said, Adam, it's Chip Scoggins. Just read your amazing email. What commitment, like just to come there and back from Florida. And he says, obviously I have connections with the team. I'm going to be covering practice tomorrow. And I will speak to someone, and either I will get back to you or someone from the Vikings will get back to you. I can't make any promises, but I will definitely do what I can. The next day, I get a call from someone in the PR department, and he says, Chip spoke with us about what you wanted. Can you describe for me what you had in mind? And I said, thank God 1,000 times, not our situation. But you always hear about, these kids for like Make-A-Wish foundations that go to games and they get like a meet and greet with a player or a
Yeah.
piece of signed merchandise or something, something like that. That's,
All right.
generally what I had in mind. And he says, to tell you the truth, since we're in TCF for these 2 years, we're really not doing much of anything like that. We have such limited space and it's just very constricting. And, when we move into US Bank, it'll be a whole different ball game, obviously. But right now, we're really not doing that. He says, hang on for a second. Let me see if there's something we can do. He comes back a few minutes later. He says, here's what we want to do for you. When you get to the game, go to the will call window, and there will be 2 sideline passes for you and your son. Is that
Nice.
okay? And I'm like, huh.
Let me think about it.
Can I get back to you on that?
Is that the best you can do?
Yeah, exactly. So we took it, and so what it gave us access to an hour and a half up to game time. Freedom on the sidelines. We could speak with players if they're willing to speak. We can watch them warm up, speak with whomever we wanted, and we met and spoke with a lot of the big donors and boosters and family members of a lot of the players. We were literally inches away from watching like the OL practice snap counts and stuff. And it was just amazing. But the worst part of that was the last picture that we took was right under the goalpost where exactly a month later against the Seahawks, Blair Walsh shanked a 27-yard field goal. That was our last picture that before we had to go to our seats. But that result notwithstanding, that was one of my most special. They really, it was really special. It was really special, and that was a great memory for sure.
That's great. They are a phenomenal organization. I'm not going to go into the whole story about how I got involved with them, but I had the same thing. Harry Randolph was the Vikings ticket manager, and I met Mike Lynn's daughter at a game because she was pregnant and trying to get hot dogs, and I had a free hand. So I said, here you go. And she starts talking to me. She goes, that accent isn't from Minnesota. And I said, I'm from New York. She goes, you're from New York. What are you doing here? And I said, I came to see the Vikings. She goes, hey, you come all the way here to see this team? I said, I hear that a lot in New York. I don't think I come to Minnesota. So she said, well, she said, next time you come in, if you want some really nice seats, just give me a call. I said, I can get some from my father. I'm like, okay, yeah, whoever your father is. She has me Mike Lynn's card embossed gold, embossed with the Viking logo. I'm like, is your father the Mike Lynn? I said, yeah. So I ended up getting the same thing, the sideline passes. I was in the locker room. You can't be in the locker room when the team's there.
Right.
But when teams coming out, you can go in, and before they go in, and I was in the where is it? I was standing literally like the kid in the Pepsi commercial in the
Yeah.
hallway. What's here it is,
Yeah. The
and
tunnel.
yeah, the tunnel, and this guy comes running out. He goes, "Hey, yo, little man, little man." Now I was in my 20s, and I was about his
Yeah.
age. So little, and he tosses me these. These are the official wristbands that the players wear.
I had a set of those. I have them in gold and purple.
They only have them in the locker room. And it's like, and I look up and I go, that was Dwayne Washington. That was
Wow.
Dwayne Washington. It's like,
Cool.
why isn't he with the rest of the team? I guess he had some kind of equipment problem that he had to take care of, or bathroom visit. But the rest
Right.
of the team had gone. There was nobody in the locker room. We were heading down, myself and a bunch of other people. Like, and this guy comes running by in his uniform. Hey, little man, here you go. Okay,
Little
but
man.
yeah, little man. But it's always been great going there, and it's great hearing your stories. I'm sure you have 1,000 of them. Hopefully, you'll be back on the show, and we can reminisce about days because, again, there are so many kids, and I call them kids because I'm 64, the same as the team. There
Yeah.
are people half our age, half my age, who don't know what it was like to go to Super Bowl and don't know what it's like to not go. And
Or they
there you
don't
go.
know
There
left
you go. Yeah, there
tackle.
you go. There, you know,
That's at
let's take
MetLife.
a
That was the
n-
opener at MetLife.
nice,
Yeah.
very nice. There you
Yeah.
go. So it is good. I mean, you got a generation of Vikings fans coming up who don't know. Yeah, they don't know the Les Steckel. They don't know the 3-13. But this team has never been a dumpster fire, and
Yeah.
that's something we can hang our hats on.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
so that being said, speaking of dumpster fires, we're going to move on to our next topic, which of course would be the
New York Jets.
Oh, the
last
other one.
Sunday's game, last Sunday's game against the Atlanta Falcons.
Hmm.
Yeah, pretty impressive, huh? Hmm.
Well, no.
Um,
So we have another friend. So that means Adam and I have two friends now.
mm,
No, but we have a friend who works for this. He works down in Atlanta, and at the beginning of the season, especially when Kirk had that big 400 and something yard performance, and the
Remember that, Will?
no Ted,
Oh, yeah, yeah,
and the
yeah.
sky's opening, the angels are singing, and oh yeah, and the last thing I told him was, he's gonna break your heart. He's gonna break your heart.
You told me
And
that too.
and then a week later, weeks later, we see a picture of a dumpster fire with the Falcons logo on it, and all I could say is, it was not like I didn't tell you. I just,
it,
I
it it was so predictable. I mean, he's a 500 quarterback, and they wanted to go more than 500. Now they're
They're under
they're still in the
500.
playoff picture. Yeah, they're still in the playoff picture. But if the playoffs were to start today, I believe we would be going to Tampa Bay to play.
Yeah, they're the
And
first team out right now.
yeah, the first team out. And this is a conference. The NFC is a conference that only has one team mathematically eliminated from the playoffs, and that's the New York Giants. You're
Yeah.
welcome.
Yes.
That may have had something
They
to do
earned that.
with us. They earned
Not easy to do what they've done.
it. Exactly. They're the only NFC team mathematically eliminated already. So, you know,
wow.
but we've been wreaking havoc on the NFL this year. I mean, we've gotten coaches fired. Let's see, the Jets, we beat them, and then a couple of weeks later, they fired their coach. We beat the Bears, and then 8 days later, or 7 days later, they fired their coach in season. And the Falcons are now in a position where they don't know what to do. I
I
because
think they
shot.
might be ready to push the panics button.
If they but that's too bad I don't have a rim shot sounder,
Like
right?
that?
It's like, yeah, well put, well
Thank
put.
you.
I will say this: because of Schadenfreude, I listened to Vikings Vent Line, and you mentioned Chip Scoggin. He's on every week on Purple Daily show. He does a
Hmm?
weekly show with Judd
Yeah.
Zolgad,
Hmm.
and he's one of my favorites. You're lucky you caught him when Tennessee wasn't playing. but there's the but I listened to Viking Vent Line, and then I have the Odyssey app, and I went over and I had to listen to Atlanta Sports Talk Radio for about an hour after that game. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. It was brutal. They're like, I don't know why we're still with this guy. Why do we draft Penix in the first place if we're not going to play him? Why do we give him that money? We should just throw him out. They shouldn't even let him off the plane from Minnesota. I'm like, why does this sound familiar? Why does this sound? Wait, I know this song. I can sing harmony while you guys sing along. So,
Well, it really begged the question that a lot of people were asking, when they took Penix, so high in the draft, which was, did they have an inkling or were they fearful that Kirk was not going to come back 100% from his injury, or
they have to know.
So in hindsight, what a great pick potentially, so
Well,
but even so, but if you had those concerns, you give away the house for him anyway. So I mean,
they jumped the gun.
And it started off, and they were doing really well. They were 6-3 and everything, and all of a sudden things just turned.
I don't know what that's like. It started off really well.
But I think it's awful. They had the same mindset that the Vikings had. My gosh, when they said, okay, we're gonna let Cousins walk, they're still on the hook for 28. They're still 28 million against the salary cap. So they didn't have a bunch of money to sign a good veteran. I mean, a
big time
veteran with a good reputation. And so what's the next best thing to do? Well, get somebody from the bargain basement and have your guy, draft your guy. So he's on a rookie deal, and so our guy is on his rookie deal now. Mm-hmm. At the end of this year, when there's no longer 28 million counting against us with Kirk Cousins' salary, that what we got in at the quarterback position is what we'd have had anyway.
Mm-hmm.
If we would have had a top tier quarterback in there, somebody making 50, 30, 40, $50 million a year. So we have the equivalent. We're getting the play out of that one guy that's being paid 10. So
we made a plan, stick with the plan. I know a lot of people are saying, oh, now you got to basically do the same thing with Sam Darnold that we did with Kirk Cousins. No, we're getting a good season. We have a plan. What we have is Kevin O'Connell, who apparently can take swill water and make it champagne. Let's keep Kevin O'Connell and let any other quarterback who is going to make a lot of money, let them go. 5 years on a rookie.
Are we going to talk more about Sam Darnold's status later in the show?
Talk about whatever you want. This is free form. This is free.
Yeah.
This is
free form. I have a different take on it. But
okay.
I was going to give you the heads up
with the Falcons. That the greatest thing about last weekend's game for me was just finally seeing this offense clicking like it should be on paper on the field. Like, wow. Like, we have not seen that. I mean, absolute deadly attack, wide open, no conservatism, and just using every weapon and just watching a team just crumble. It was prolific. It was just so riveting to see that finally happen. And they came out. And they came out. The Vikings just have this. They just have this tendency constantly to play down to opponents and to needlessly let them hang around in games. And you could see from the beginning of that game that they were dialed in. They didn't, wasn't like 3 and out 3 times to start the game. They really, they responded. They let Atlanta march down the field, but then they went right back. And, the game probably shouldn't have been as close as it was in the third quarter anyway. But, boy, when they really got cooking, you could just get a glimpse, a little taste of what it could be like. Can you imagine if they could literally put that together for a 60-minute game? It's just hard to even imagine.
Well,
on all sides of the ball. Just unbelievable. It was refreshing.
But was it the Cardinals or Jacksonville where they were running up and down the field? They just weren't scoring.
That was Jacksonville. We were there.
No
touchdowns. 4 field goals.
I've never seen. It had been a while since I'd seen a team just move. So I mean, they were so proficient on offense, and then they get to the red
450
zone.
yards of offense and not a touchdown.
Yeah.
By the way, did you catch last week against Atlanta? We scored 42 points on 53 offensive plays only in the game.
Yeah, because we were scoring so fast. Well,
it was unbelievable.
Funny thing about that game flow was that we scored 21 points in the first three quarters and 4 minutes.
Yeah.
And it's like they said, okay, so what do we do now? And somebody said, well, let's just do that again. Let's just go 21 more. What's the worst that can happen? Type of thing. It's like, why did it take us so long to score the first 21? It's kind of like back when we played that game against the Colts. We went 33 to nothing, and they went to the locker room and saying, so what are we going to do? We can't score 33 points. Why not? They did. Okay, yeah, true. Let's do that. Why did you wait? This is who the Minnesota Vikings are. This is why I'm going to be on heart medication for the rest of my life because I'm telling you, there was the Cardinals game, boring as anything. As I was telling Q, I told him last week on the show. I've gotten to a point this year with this team, and I know this is a rebuilding year. I'm enjoying the wins. I'm enjoying the ride. If we don't win the Super Bowl this year, I'm okay with that because this is gravy, and I understand it's gravy. But I've gotten to a point now where I listen to a game or I watch a game like the Cardinals game, and I'm not thinking, oh my goodness, what's going to happen? I'm thinking, okay, at what point are we going to win this game? We're going to win this game by 1 point. Are we going to win it by 3 points? What are we going to win this by? Yeah. Because we're not going to win it by 5. We're not going to win it by 10. We're going to win. Well, how are we going to win this on a field goal? Are we going to win on a last second touchdown? There was no point in my mind that I thought that we were going to lose that Cardinals game. There was no point that I thought we were going to lose the Falcons game. Yeah. And I can't remember, and I hate saying this, I can't remember the last time I was watching a Vikings game and I thought we might lose this game. Because I didn't think that in the 2 losses that we had. I thought the 2 losses, I honestly thought we were in those, we were going to come back.
Yeah, I thought we were going to win the Detroit game, yeah.
So that's a strange feeling for me, okay? Like I said, I've been following this team for 6 decades. This is the first time I've had, well, it's the first time since the 98 season and the 88 season where it was like, well, wow, this team is going to win. It's just a matter of by how much.
But I'm really feeling Kevin O'Connell's vibe, though. The way he talks to his team, and it's not that he's an offensive guy, a quarterback guru. I mean, he's always cutting up with defenders and such too. So he has just a thing going with those guys.
He's a leader,
and he's a leader. And then he's getting that leadership out of his guys too. And yeah, I know at some point, they're going to lose. But and they have lost actually, but their attitude is just, hey, we're going to get up and we're going to get up after it again. And after losing to the Rams and the Lions, they're back on their little streak again. So, hey, let's see how this turns out. But this is so awesome that if you're not looking, I'm looking over my shoulder now. It's halftime at the 49ers game, but 49ers win puts the Vikings automatically in the playoffs.
It's real offensive showdown in San Francisco.
3-0 in the pouring rain.
3-3.
But there's something different about, and I'm not just saying it's because of Sam Darnold, but there's just something different about the team. And I know when the reason that the Vikings don't have Ryan Poles, Ryan and Razor, we talked about this before. Ryan Poles said, basically in his interview, we're going to just blow it up, which is what he's doing at the Bears. And he's got a lot of talent there, but it's not very entertaining to watch. And they're losing. When they said, hey, well, let's see what we got. I'll run with Kirk Cousins for a while if you say, but somewhere along the way, we're going to pick up our guy. Mm-hmm. You can't come into a thing saying your career hangs on the balance because you have a guy that is 36 years old, hasn't won anything, and he's awful. I don't know why. And I was the anti-Cousins from the very beginning. If you saw the look on Mike Zimmer's face when he got announced at the press conference, Zimmer wasn't on board, and that was the beginning of the end right there. But but if you tell me, and you like well, Razor, you always say wins and losses aren't a quarterback stat,
No, I
but it
said
is.
that's what everybody who defends Kirk
People say,
says.
yeah, the people say that, or Kirk defenders say that, but no, wins and losses are, because if you just say, oh well, every year I'm good for 7-10, or I'm good for 9-8, that is not a good quarterback. I don't get, but I throw for 600 yards a game. I have 70 touchdowns this year.
Well, the people who defend Kirk Cousins can take some solace in the fact that he did throw for 300 and I think 340 yards on Sunday. So it must have been the defense's fault for letting up 42 points. It was the offensive line's fault for him not being able to scramble. It was the defender's fault for standing. Byron Murphy Jr. was standing in the way of his pass. So, it's somebody else's fault. And you know what? That's I'm not gonna continue to pile on him. That game is over, and I wish him well. I wish Michael Penix the best
Oh,
of
let's
luck in his
pile on
future
more.
his future endeavors.
I
But I'm
think
ready.
I think that the Vikings right now enjoy playing for their coach as much as any team in the NFL. And I think that there is just such a camaraderie, and they push each other and they celebrate each other. There's no divisiveness, there's no ego, there's nothing
You never hear about it.
disruptive that's infected that locker room. And I think that, um, you know, the one thing that I think Kevin has really kind of accomplished is that, and this, I always have gotten very upset and nervous when I hear a coach referred to as a player's coach, because in the end it never works. You can't be one of the buddies all the time with these guys. There has to be a line in the sand some point where he's a coach's coach, and it's not your buddy and your pal in that sense. And I think that he has accomplished that rare dynamic where he's a young guy, former NFLer himself, quarterback at that, and he he's just developed this incredible rapport where they respect the hell out of him, and they respect him as the coach. He's not one of their buddies, but at the same time, as a former player, he has the advantages. Obviously, he can relate to them on a very unique level. And
He played recently as well. That's always a plus.
right,
He didn't play
exactly.
back in
And
the
he's
70s.
young. He's 40 years old, whatever. And I think, I think that's a tremendous dynamic, and it's a tough one to accomplish. And I think so far, he's really accomplished something special.
Well,
And these guys just love playing for him and for the whole staff. That's
everybody does.
not a lot of teams can say that. I
Yeah,
mean, you read
that's
about
very true.
divisiveness and egos and things just shattering locker rooms and finger pointing and team. When's the last time you heard the Vikings call for a team only meeting?
Yeah.
Never under
Never,
KOC.
not under Kevin O'Connell. That has not
Never,
happened. And
never.
another thing is Justin Jefferson hadn't caught until Sunday. He hadn't caught a touchdown since October. He is the
Not a
highest paid
complaint. Not a
non-quarterback.
complaint. You'll hear rumors about
Nope,
complaints or
not a word. Not a
they
word. He
he buys.
understands that
Everyone's buying in. Everyone's
we're
buying
winning.
in.
We're winning. We're winning. It's like
Yep. Winning cures a lot of stuff.
it does. If we were losing and he'd been on the team when we lost, you didn't hear it from him then either. So
Right. No,
the team
he's a
dynamic,
real fine person.
it absolutely works. Unfortunately, you're gonna have to fast forward a little to Monday night's upcoming game to the opposite
Whiteout
scenario.
game.
The whiteout game, the
Can't wait for the
opposite
white
scenario.
uniforms.
That's going to be interesting, especially against a team in free fall. And you mentioned him a few minutes ago. Ryan Poles, who was the runner-up for the job that Kwiedźadov-Mensah got, is currently in a power struggle with the Bears, and he's not happy. And there's some talk about this being his final year, that he may walk, because he was told one thing. He was sold a bill of goods. He had a plan. The plan was to build. And they started losing. Like you said, winning kills a lot of things. Losing causes a lot of problems. Sometimes a team in rebuild is going to lose. Some people don't want to hear that. 7-game losing streak, fingers start pointing. You fire the coach. Thomas Brown, who was, I believe, a running backs coach, comes in as the interim. okay, the team is in free fall. Nobody should say, well, what do we do now? What do we do now? You finish out the season, you regroup, but that's not the direction they're going. So this is
This
what we're
game,
walking into
this
Monday.
game should this game should scare the bejeebers out of every Vikings fan there is. This
Yeah,
game scares the heck out of me. This is the classic, the absolute classic overlooking an opponent, looking ahead to Seattle, trap game, national TV. This
this
is
is,
so scary to me. I can't even
but
overstate it.
but fortunately for us, it's not in Chicago where crazy things happen, or there's another expression,
Always.
but I'm not going to use it because this is a family show. But they say happens in Chicago. But, and I was listening to this earlier. There's one thing that we should always remember.
The Bears still suck. The Bears still suck. The Bears still suck. The Bears still suck. They really, 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 really suck. Yes, the Bears still suck. Everybody.
Is that their new fight? Is that the new song they play after every score?
They played it twice this season. and one with the field goal, and the other was the safety. It's we're going. You're right. It's a classic trap game. This is a cornered animal with nothing to lose. Don't let them come in our house on a Monday night in national TV. I feel better about this game knowing we've got the extra day of preparation. We've faced them before in their building, and
This is a game. This is a game that a real contending team this late in the season puts away in the first half. This is it. This is a game that we should be up 31-0 at the half, scoring at will virtually, and coasting to the finish line, and I just have this thing gnawing at me that there's going to be this tighter game than anyone ever imagined going into the fourth quarter again.
Well, you know it will. You know it will.
It's just
it
shouldn't be, but it might be.
You know it will. You know this is.
It's just the Vikings way. I don't get it.
As I've said before, if you ever seen a Hallmark movie, one of those Hallmark movies, the girl is working in a pizzeria, the guy comes in, he wants to buy something, they get into an argument, he's like, I'm never gonna go back in that place again. Then they meet at a bookstore, they bump into each other, it's like, oh, it's you again. And next thing you know, at the end of the movie, they're getting married. God, didn't see that coming. And it's like, okay, these are two teams and they should be miles apart, going in different directions. One's on a 7-game losing streak, one has a 5-game winning streak and a 6-game winning streak in the same season, and they got the hardest quarterback going, and why is it 6-3 at the half?
But I am gonna caution you guys, because one of the things, I'm just gonna kind of step away from the Vikings game for a second, because one of the things that they were talking about last week was Philadelphia was playing were playing the Panthers, and they were saying like the Panthers did not pack it in. They were like, nope. We're gonna play hard until they were very tough out.
And Thielen had one of the catches of the year in that game. Wow.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't think the Bears are going to pack it in. And I don't. I think that because I do think that there's some talent on there. I just think that
these guys are playing for contracts themselves. I mean,
So when leadership says I'm making a change, like they went from what's the guy's name? They moved on from Justin Fields way soon because the players in Chicago had not lost confidence in Justin Fields, and of course, they brought Caleb Williams in, and I'm not going to say he's struggling as such. I think the coaching that he has gotten is struggling. But he's still, his head's still in it, and he still has the desire. But,
Well, he should. He's only played 13 NFL games. He's only played 13 NFL games. I mean, it's like if you're packing it in this early in your career, that's a problem.
But I'm really happy, though, that even if, and this is what I tell people before, and again, Adam, we'll get to that discussion a little bit later, but with JJ McCarthy, Razor and I knew that when you say we're signing a guy, not a 2-year deal, but we're giving him a 1-year deal, which means that they already have in their mind, hey, we're giving this guy the keys to one of the nicest offenses anybody has seen. And we finally got him a running back now, too, a better running back than Alexander Madison. so
Right.
so
That was
now
biggest pickup of the year.
they gave this guy keys to the Lamborghini.
Yeah.
So if he didn't do something with this team, then well, whatever. We were just, but lucky for us, we had something entertaining. The downside was JJ McCarthy wasn't healthy for the whole season just to watch, but he's the plan. And I'm just excited that he's going to be the guy that gets the keys to the Lamborghini next year. And I say this only because I was telling Razor a couple of days ago, if the Vikings only get to the first round of the playoffs or the second round, let's say they win their first round game, well, they would have to.
Yeah.
I would be satisfied because I would feel vindicated because the quarterbacks on each side of Kirk Cousins won a playoff game.
Mm-hmm.
And meanwhile, people are saying when we kept saying, "Oh, we need to move off from Kirk Cousins." Well, who are we gonna get? Who are we gonna get? I'm like, anybody. Case Keenum won 13 games for us. Come on. And now we got, and that was with Zimmer.
Mm-hmm.
So now we got Darnold, who, I mean, he was a big time guy at Southern Cal. He had no hope playing for the Jets, and an even worse for the Panthers. So he gets a little coaching, and now he's doing it. So imagine what that same quarterback whisperer is going to do with one of the two youngest people drafted one of the two youngest people in the NFL draft last year, who just happens to play quarterback, who just happened to win a national championship at Michigan. So I say, when people say, well, does playing football in college, how does that translate to the NFL? It doesn't, except for one thing. If you knew that for 6 games a year, you are playing in front of more people than the average NFL stadium, because you're playing in front of about 90,000 people in the big house.
More than that, 106.
100,000, yeah.
So you're playing in front of 100,000 people, and you win. You went undefeated. You win a national championship. You can play big time football. And the biggest knock on the guy was that he wasn't padding stats with thousands and thousands of
passing yard,
useless statistics against BFE State. So now we're going to see if he can ball. But I think this is the time that it happens. But that's a discussion for a little bit later on. But this week, I'm seeing the Vikings, after having seen how playing a first place team like the Falcons, then first place team like the Falcons, how they could handle them. I said last week it was going to be like, what did I say? I said like 31 to 10 or something like that. And I got 42. We got 42 on the offensive side. I didn't expect 21 points. This time, I think the same type of thing, but I think it's going to start looking decisive a little earlier. So I'm saying Vikings, and I'm Vikings 38 to 10.
Okay, so 38-10. So you're saying it's going to be a 4-touchdown route. Adam, what do you say?
Well, I had the same score in mind for the Vikings, but I had 17 in mind for the Bears, actually 38-17. I just hope that that they get out there and they realize they can put this game away in the first half, and they just don't let this team stick around, because as the old saying, anything crazy can happen, and we know more than the average fan, being Vikings fans,
definitely.
for all these, that we know that if crazy
everything
stuff is going to happen, it's going to be associated with the Vikings.
Pittsburgh and Cleveland.
Mm-hmm. If everything crazy happens to this team, either we win crazy or we lose crazy, but that's the way it is.
Something crazy, bizarre, just inexplicable things happen, and you just gotta, And another, by the way, just one more comment on the Atlanta game.
Mm-hmm.
One other great thing that was, so many teams, and if there's one thing that Kevin, I think, is guilty of at times, is when you have a small lead in the fourth quarter, the old playing not to lose instead of to win, and letting teams kind of get back into it. I think he's been guilty of taking his foot off the gas a few times when he could have really just gone for the jugular. And last week, though, boy, it was just absolutely, as one comedian I heard years ago said, like, they say, don't kick a man when he's down. Can you think of a better time?
Yeah, exactly. It's less effort. It requires a lot less effort. It's easier on the knees. Right? It's a 100. Hey, being from New York, being from Brooklyn, the old saying, if you can't say something nice about somebody, say it loud enough so everybody can hear.
Hey, wait. So, Razor, before you give your prediction, there is one more random thought that I want to give you. Mm-hmm. So, the Vikings are playing on Monday night, right?
Yes.
And they played, like 1 or 2 Sunday night games, right?
Right.
How many times did people go into the game going, oh, I wonder if they could see they can't win on Sunday night. They can't win after 4:00. We got Sam Darnold for crying out loud. Nobody's saying stuff like that.
Well, again, that's kind of like, that was a Kirk thing. That wasn't a Viking thing. Nobody ever said that about the Vikings, that we couldn't win in prime time.
Right, but what I'm saying is, but we know now that we no longer have Kirk, no one says anything about can the Vikings win after 4:00. I mean, that's
but nobody said that before.
3
Kirk
Central,
either.
3 Central,
right? Yeah, 3 Central, 3:00 Central. Nobody said that before. Kirk. I never heard that was a Kirk Cousins thing, because even when he was with the Skins,
very much so.
But
very much so.
Anyway, my score prediction on this game is that something weird always happens against the Bears, and I think what weird is going to happen against the Bears is not 1 but 2 defensive touchdowns. I think that we win this game 41-17, and that will include 2 defensive touchdowns. That I will go so far as to say one will be a pick six, and the other will be a fumble recovery. So I'm gonna that's how specific I'm gonna get. One will be a pick six, the other will be a fumble recovery. I don't know by whom, but I think the noise in that stadium on a Monday night is gonna rattle Caleb Williams so badly that he's gonna be disheveled. We played them in Chicago and he was off his game. He's not gonna be sharper this week.
I'll say for the record that my very first time in the Metrodome was a Monday night game against the Bears. And I think it was 2007, I believe. Okay. And the one thing I remember in the Metrodome, like all the noise you hear on the TV and everything, but to be in that stadium, to hear how loud it got,
TV can't do it justice. TV cannot do it justice. It rumbled. 2 things about the Metrodome for those who have never been there. Yeah. Number 1, the sound shakes you. The sound shakes you.
It was unbelievable. Like when you literally can't hear the person next to you when you're screaming at them. It was incredible. And we won that game.
There you go.
Yeah.
The other thing about the Metrodome that I learned my first time out, and I was unaware, but I became aware of it after that and knew it, is when you leave that building, especially in the winter, hold on, because you will get thrown out of that building.
Yeah,
you will get sucked out of the
vacuum.
Yeah, it's a vacuum.
Yeah, it pushes you right out.
Really?
40 miles an hour.
The whole thing is a vacuum.
Yeah, and when I say 40 miles an hour, I'm not exaggerating.
You just get
thrown into
carried right out of the building.
Right into Michigan Avenue, inappropriately named Michigan Avenue.
Yeah, it was great.
Well, I'm just hoping nothing weird happens, because the weirdest thing that I saw was that Cowboy game, that Dallas game, that Dallas Cincinnati game, that ending. I mean, I don't like the Cowboys, right? Not since the offensive pass interference not called by Drew Pearson. Y'all remember that one, right? But anyway,
that might have been around December 28th, 1975. Not that I'm bitter.
Not that kind of, yeah, right. That's not bitter.
Can you imagine?
I've let go.
Can you imagine blocking a punt and then having it strafe off of the receiving team, and then having it recovered by the other team? Inside of 2 minutes.
That stuff doesn't happen. That's not the crazy stuff that happens to us. The crazy stuff that happens to us is a perfect kicker missing a field goal, or somebody fumbling the ball in the end zone.
or a Monday night game against the Packers when a ball doesn't hit the ground but just rests on another player, and then you pick it up and run it into the end zone.
Oh God, yeah, exactly. Meanwhile, some of the defender is celebrating. It's like, there. That's the crazy stuff that happens to us. And
by the way, just you mentioned Dallas. So on December 28th, 1975, Dallas at that time became my 30th favorite team, my most hated team in the league. But there was cause for celebration just a year later when Seattle and Tampa started their expansion teams.
They went down to
Dallas moved from number 30 down to 32.
32. There you go. Right. So there's always there's a joke, and I'm not going to name which states because you guys are from one of them. But I was living, and they said, "Wow, just heard Alabama dropped to 49th, dropped to 50th in education from 49th," and the person from this other state said, "Out of how many?" It's like, so we're number 2.
I think it was Mississippi, not Alabama. We used to say thank God for
Mississippi.
Mississippi.
I'm sorry,
Mississippi. We used to say thank God for Mississippi.
Now I can't go back there anymore. Thanks a lot.
That's like I heard this other kid. Another comedian recently. He says the other day someone asked me, heard me speaking. They said, "Where are you from?" I said, "Boston." They said, "The city?" Like no, I'm from the pop group from the 1970s.
From the band. I'm from the band. It's like
they were educated in the Mississippi high school system.
Yeah, who are you? Where with the police? Really? You don't look like Sting. It's like, okay. Like I said, I
can't make this stuff up.
Guess I can't go back to Mississippi. That's just great. No. Or I'll have to delete this segment. Anyway, speaking of which, I know you mentioned earlier that you had some quarterback takes. I'm going to have to reschedule those, but I would love to have you back on for those. I posted, I think a few days ago, I posted a solo rant because the quarterback situation had gotten to the point where I couldn't even wait for another episode before I spewed it. And I would love to hear your quarterback takes. I would also like to discuss it with Q because a while back before the season, he and I sent in I sent an email to Phil Mackey at Purple Daily, which he read during the show. And one of the questions was, so let's say Sam Darnold balls out, has a great year. What do we do? Do we trade him? Do we sign him? Do we franchise tag him? And Judge Zolgad said, oh, yeah, well, that's going to happen, so we don't have to worry about that. Here we are. So
I will just say for the record, I hope that Sam Darnold is our starter for next year and that JJ sits just like Aaron Rodgers did for 2 or 3 years with Brett Favre. And you do not trade away a quarterback who's a top 3 quarterback right now and is flourishing under this system that he never had before. He was in a system in New York that could have derailed Tom Brady's career. And the one thing that I think Sam will do that Kirk was stupid enough to do, that he will not do, is I think if Sam is really smart, he's going to immediately give a hometown discount to stay with this team. And he's not going to make it hurt as much. And I really hope he's back because this guy, I mean, you just don't trade away a guy playing like this. Maybe he can't sustain it for another year, but man, this guy he's found the right coach and the right system. This guy is everything they thought he would be when he was a number 3 pick 6 years ago and more, and just flourishing and has such a great connection with everyone. Had tremendous pocket instincts, spinning out of jam. I mean, my gosh, this guy I said before the season to mock you, I said, I hope this is the second coming of Baker Mayfield only on steroids. It's exactly what I said, because he found the right coach in Tampa. And man, I just don't see how you ever think about getting rid of this guy after the season he's having right now. And I think he'll take a discount because why would he want to go anywhere else either? Just throwing it out there.
Remember Drew Brees. Just remember Drew Brees.
I will say this because I will say this just before we wrap it up here. Yes, I'm going to have you on again so we can flesh this out because this is a conversation for another day. But this is the classic pull the pin out of the grenade, roll it into the room, and then get in your car and drive away, moved by Adam. It's like I just want to put this out there. All right, see you. It's like, okay, it's like we're not going to let that hang in the air. We're definitely going to flesh that out. Hopefully, like in the upcoming week after this, we have a Monday night game. We can work it out offline with your schedule and find out. But the quarterback discussion is something that definitely heating up. And like I said, I put that one rant episode out because it had gotten to the point where I was hearing so much back and forth, and a lot of it was stuff that Q and I talked about at the very beginning of the season that nobody saw coming. And now that it's come to fruition, decision time.
It's a high-class problem. It's a high-class problem to have.
Champagne problem.
And I would be remiss and never hear at the end of it from my kids if I didn't show our pet Charlie in his.
Oh, Charlie's got talking in baby too.
Skull dog.
He is always in his jersey at game time.
There you go. Perfect. All right. So, and with that, we're gonna wrap this episode. It's great having you, Adam. Q.
So nice to meet you finally, and this is a real thrill. This is so good.
I know you're going to end up being our first return guest. So
yeah, exactly. Yeah, we're definitely going to have you back on for the quarterback discussion.
That'd be great.
So with that being said, this has been the QR code. I'm Razor.
I'm Q.
I'm Adam. Skull.
And Skull.